Welcome everyone to our NetSuite Tech Talks. I'm here with Ben Kramer from our NetSuite practice, and he's basically our NetSuite director and basically managing all the YHire program. And in this tech talk, we're just going to talk about a lot of technical things and
technical things. What we love.
Not just technical.
That's what
things.
we do. That's what we do.
That's what we do. So yeah, we'll talk about those things. We'll talk about whatever idea that you and me have, and we'll just share them along.
Yeah. No. Well, Rohit, I appreciate you having me here today.
Yeah.
And to the team putting this together. Gosh, I get to be here in Delhi, a couple times a year.
Yeah.
With you and the team. When we think about our NetSuite practice of the firm, we got, 60-70% of our folk here in Delhi. Yeah. I myself am in Dubai. A handful of people in the United States. I tell you, when I get to come here into our center of excellence on our NetSuite Tech and our Microsoft Tech, a lot of the other platform development based out of the office here, it's always super exciting. Definitely looking forward to the next 10, 20, 30 minutes here doing this podcast with you. Talk a little bit about some of the things going on in NetSuite, some of the things that, for me, as someone who's a director of the NetSuite practice, I do know, but I come from a business school background, right? So I'm not obviously nearly as deep as you or other technical experts here. So yeah, looking forward to a fun conversation. Hopefully we can be a little bit lively, make some jokes, have some fun, and hopefully learn a little bit. I'm going to learn a little bit, and hopefully the audience of this also gets the chance to learn a little bit through the next, 20, 30 minutes. So, yeah. So Rohit, I'm curious to get us into this, you said your resume, I'll talk a little bit more. You're too modest here. What has been 6-7 years now, always in NetSuite development from a developmental background. Right now, you're the technical architect of one of our what we call YHire teams. It supports team. You support give or take 10 clients who are live, acting as if you're a member of their team. So you see all the emerging things, not just like net new implementation work, but you're seeing companies all day, every day, those 10 clients you have and how you can help push them forward. So as we talk through this, I'm just going to be curious to know what type of new stuff is going on. What do I need to know? I assume most people in our audience know a little bit about NetSuite technology. Otherwise, I doubt they would be sitting here watching this for 20, 30 minutes. So, I want to learn. I have some gaps myself on, what's the latest and greatest NetSuite's been doing with its Gen AI, which, in my viewpoint to date, is kind of BS. But it seems like it's getting a little bit more and more real. So I think we'll get the chance to talk about that. Yeah. I know you mentioned to me, a couple other people here in the office when I was here this week mentioned about some of the movement NetSuite's making towards single page applications, which I don't know, maybe you guys know what that means, but I don't have a darn clue what a single page is. I prefer multiple pages if you ask me. But I'm saying that as a joke. I don't understand that technology there, So there, I think we've seen a lot of trends for me as somebody who doesn't do NetSuite every day, but rather works in sales and marketing and works with companies trying to figure out how to staff their NetSuite improvement. Gen AI, some of the new development frameworks, like you were saying, with single page, whatnot. A lot of work these days around the SCM mobile app, or how they're trying to get more and more stuff out of the legacy UI of NetSuite and move to the new, SCM mobile, as they call it, or the the app based, right? Where we can get a lot more development that looks and feels like a modern app. Yeah. And then I also know that, there's some other stuff too. We see integrations continuing to be more and more frequent, right? Yeah. Whether it's super old school EDI technology that still companies have to handle today, or whether it's the stuff in, newer stuff like using, tools like a Jitterbit or a Boomi or whatever in the middle. Yeah. So we'll get to all that, but looking forward to learning a bit from you here in the next 20, 25 minutes, and we'll go from there. Right, let's start, if you don't mind. What's a single page, bro? I have no clue what this means.
Yes. Yeah, you started with saying that you like multiple pages.
Well, when I use NetSuite, I have 10,000 tabs open. So I always have. I never have one browser session over. You're talking about a single page. You make me nervous that I'm not going to be able to right click and then say open a new tab, which scares me a bit. So what's this single page junk?
So basically, I think there's a backstory to it. I don't know if you remember this or not, but when we used to be interns, when we started in NetSuite, we came from the newer generation, right? We were looking at the web pages, they were all modern and everything. And NetSuite in 2018, 2019 was not that pretty.
What do you mean?
I
No,
would-
don't. See, this is the problem with you technical people. You're like, oh, my ERP is not like nice, right? It's an ERP. It's a back-end business
but
system.
that's
It's not going to be like LinkedIn or Facebook, and you're like, I want it to be Facebook. Is this what you're trying to tell me, Rohit?
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what it solves, by the way. So what happens is
Have you seen other ERPs using this specifically, huh?
I've seen, by the way.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've been others, but back in the day, I did some
Yeah.
other platforms. I won't name to embarrass anybody, but before they were in the cloud, they were beautiful. It looks like an Excel sheet.
Oh, in defense of NetSuite, I would say that it's the prettier ones. It's one of the pretty.
See, now here we go. Now we go. Right?
I'm
2 minutes ago, he was saying, "Oh, I was all old school." And when I joined, I was like, "What is this? What is this junky development?" And now he's like, it's pretty. Okay,
But
so
no,
I appreciate you saying it's pretty. How is it getting prettier then?
Yes. So there's still improvements. The pages and everything, how they load is using the older architecture. So a very basic example of that is when in a sales order you want to change the vendor
Yeah.
or a subsidiary. What happens is your whole page refreshes, right? And the reason behind that.
What do you mean by that? Like, can you press edit, or what do you mean?
No. So let's say you are changing your subsidiary. What
Yeah.
happens? The whole page refreshes, right?
Yeah.
That happens. That looks like a normal thing to us, but if you think about the modern applications or the modern pages that you're using, that never happens.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen that happening on any web form that you're doing? That doesn't happen usually in the newer pages, right?
The website I built in like
Yes.
2003
Yes.
when I was in 8th grade, and we had to build a website. It just did it. I was very proud of the fact that I had a button I could click that would like make the page refresh, by the way. Huh?
Yeah.
This is about where my technical skills capped out.
But yeah, so these are basically the modern version. The single page applications are the modern frameworks that are basically the modern architecture that is used in the web pages.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot in the new pages that you're seeing in the new websites that you're viewing, and you don't even think about it. Like, for example, if you would have visited Apple's website, right? You change, like you're selecting an iPhone and then you want to look at maybe a MacBook, right? The page is never actually
I
refreshing.
have so much better solution for you, man.
Yeah.
Just go to the Apple store. And you can actually see it. You can see all the corners. You don't wait for the page to refresh. I'm saying I have answers. I have answers for you.
I think the podcast is pretty real. That you are going to be in the mud. You're not going to be in the team of single page applications, and I'm all for it.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yes. So these basically what we are trying to solve here is making the interface newer. So the pages won't refresh. But by the way, that's like the most basic thing that solves.
Yeah.
And the other thing that it solves is it makes your framework, it makes your architecture modern. By modern, I mean that all the scripts that we are deploying right now, like the client script, the user event scripts, they are not directly impacting the user interface. The user interface is still in the control of the form, right?
Yeah.
What this gives you is the control. Because you can deploy a frame, basically a React-based web page, right, into the NetSuite, and it can use all the APIs. What happens is you can create basically pages with unlimited possibilities, right? It doesn't replace, by the way, the existing things that are happening. The sales order will look the same, I guess, for the next 5 years. But what this changes is for you to make your own modern web pages, right?
It's just like, it sounds like just a new fancy suitelet.
It does, but with the modern architecture. And I'll tell you the differences that it does create, by the way. We were looking at a demo from, I don't know from whom this demo was, right? But we were looking into the possibilities of it. And there was a team who did like basically a replica of the WMS app, but with their own flows and everything. You can do the same with the WMS, but what this gives you the capability is of making your own pages, of your own processes, of your own UI and everything, right? And that's just one of the possibilities. Like when I personally think about the possibility, how I imagine this to be used is like creating a POS basically, right? How you do POS in NetSuite is usually having an integration between a POS software and your NetSuite, right? But when you can design your own own web pages and modern web pages, what you get the chance of doing is basically having your own POS within NetSuite, with your own UI, with your own system, right? And all of that does not use any concurrencies, by the way, because it is happening inside of NetSuite, not outside. Because you log in into the NetSuite.
Yeah, so it's just like suite. I mean, it all sounds like
is
a custom suite.
By the way, yes. The other way of thinking about this is the modern method of Sweetlets, because
yeah.
and I think audience can fill us in these knowledge gaps, is the Sweetlets still uses the older architecture and you had to use a new architecture, right? So it doesn't have like a visual change right now, but what gives you this as a step is the difference between 2.0 and 2.1, right?
Yeah.
So when the 2.1 came, a lot of people thought that what's new, right? I'm just getting to use the new variables. But what difference that created was that we were on the newer version of JavaScript compared to, like, let's say an ancient version, right? And a similar thing happens.
We'll let that one be.
Yeah.
That's a joke. For those technically listening, let, that's something that came with 2.1, right?
Yeah, whatever works.
Before you couldn't use let, right?
Yes, definitely.
I think that could be totally wrong. I am not a technical person. I'm just a jokester here in the call.
But yeah, that is basically the options that it provides. And the best thing about SP is that you have the endless possibilities. You can do whatever with it. You can create your own user interface client pages. Yeah. You can use it as a server-based page, and you can use this externally, just like a Sweetlet and a RESTlet, right? So you have multiple possibilities, but being modern.
But if I get it right, you're basically in the old architecture. Yeah. The entire page would load. You could do things on the page, and at the end, you'd press submit, which would cause the page to refresh. Only then would it actually send new information back to the database. If I'm getting you right, you're saying on the single page applications, we're able to both fetch data and submit data without actually saving the entire page. Is that a fair understanding?
I guess so. It's not the exact thing that happens, but that's like a simplified version of
Yes, these tech people, man, they're too smart for me. I can see that. I mean, especially I'm lying a bit in this. I have a little more technical background. I'm making it seem like back in the day, I think when I was 20 years old, I built a significant PHP page for a little scout camp in the United States to help manage their inventory. That actually got me into the ERP profession. Yeah. So at that point, I dabbled around with a little bit of JavaScript, PHP, custom page and whatnot. And I remember doing some jQuery. I remember doing to get on an individual page. Like I could fetch more results and get more results back. Yeah. Right. By doing certain actions on the page, but not having to reload the entire file, the entire HTML file that went for that individual page. So I think that's pretty much what you're referencing here.
I guess so. And I'll add one more word into it, right? So when you break this down into 3 words, there's a last word to it, which is applications, right? So the interesting thing here is it is a page, but it can be an application of its own. So basically, it's a bit difficult to explain, but basically your whole application is within a single page. It does not need to refresh. It works on states. It works on React's framework. But what this presents as a possibility is to basically make NetSuite modern. And I believe in a couple of years, maybe NetSuite will also adapt this within their own interface. And I think that's what they're trying to do with their Red Bull experience. But it was only a cosmetic change.
Yeah, but this would be a disaster, though, huh? How do they move to that with all the existing scripts and all the existing framework and Yeah, that'll be quite interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
it would be.
It's just going to incur a lot of costs for those legacy businesses, right? Yeah. Depending on how they do it, I'm sure it'll be backwards compatible, and they probably will use the old form and give you a handful of years to get converted. No, it's quite exciting. So, Rohit, I know you mentioned a couple. The first use case was reproducing what's already in the SCM mobile app. What do you see? I mean, it seems like this is almost. We don't know. You and I don't work for NetSuite, right? But it almost feels like if they were going to do this on anything, why was the SCM mobile app not developed as a single page application to begin with? Because it has a totally different technical framework than regular NetSuite. And it seems like every release they're adding more and more and more functionality into the SCM mobile app. So it seems like that they're making a serious effort there. But they haven't. But it seems like that would be a natural candidate for this new architecture you're suggesting.
I also thought the same thing. By the way, just to give you a spoiler, what's happening here is we within our team also we have started learning the SPS within like a month or two ago, right? So we are also I would say we are if you have to look at this as an age, we are just maybe teenagers who are trying to figure the things out, right? But I had the same question in my mind. I was also thinking about the same thing. Like, why would NetSuite not do that? And I have a couple of theories. I don't have any answers, honestly. But what I feel is the first thing is I know that React basically in general is comparatively heavy. And I don't mean that it will cause any slowdowns, but I guess the use case of SCM was something different. It was for the handheld devices. It was for the scanners, right? It was to basically make sure that those devices on like the bare minimum architecture, bare minimum processes can handle and work on it, right? So honestly, and like it's a great question because I honestly had the same thought when I was looking at the SCM app and I was learning about these SPAs, and I'm still learning. But that's the thought that I had in my mind, right? Yeah, and I was talking about the thoughts or the reasons why NetSuite is not using the SPAs, right? The single page applications, not for the WMS, right? And we were talking that the first reason was that maybe the application, it needs to be faster. And the second reason that I believe is maybe they started the development on WMS itself or the SCM itself before they had the thought of that. Or maybe they have different teams, right? Like there's a lot of theories. I also believe maybe the SCM gives them the opportunity, like the current SCM architecture gives them the opportunity of customizations. I believe the way it is created is for the customizations. And that's what
SCM app, you think?
I guess so, right?
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
Yeah.
The way you promote it, the way the upgrades happen in the SCM mobile. Sorry, NetSuite, if you're watching, right? It's wonderful that you allowed us. I will speak directly to NetSuite for a second. It's wonderful that you allowed us to customize the SCM app. That seriously is game changing. But boy, that technical framework is maybe still maturing is the political correct way to say without getting sued here. It's good, and I think it is ready for mid-market, but it's maybe not for the most complex warehousing operations, shipping operations, cycle counting operations. That framework isn't as robust. For example, how can we can't really track it in source control well, at least the promotion. We can't push it from SDFs. Like, it's great that they made a lot of progress on SCM Mobile and that development framework. And we are seeing clients left and right adding and tweaking and doing different functionality. It's probably what 30% of the work you and your team do now is on SCM Mobile. But it'll be interesting to see how that all evolves. I mean, I don't think I don't necessarily think we know. So we think about the use cases for the or for the single page applications. I mean, again, to me, it sounds like it's a sweet lid on steroids. I'm simplifying this, but a sweet lid on steroids. And there are some use cases for some very, very complicated sweet lids where performance was really bad. I'm assuming on single page applications, you can do, for example, like delayed load of information, right? Where a sweet lit, there is no such thing. Like a page on, you have to load all of the data once to render all of the pages, right? So like, and I don't know if this is true. You tell me. We're learning it. To the audience, I really don't know. I'm learning as you guys here. On the single page applications, I want to think back to we had one large, very big solar energy leasing company, right? And for them, solar energy leasing, cash flow forecasting is a big, big impact, right? So we had built an incredibly complicated suitelet where they could keep drilling into new information, expanding more and more, right, to get into what they're looking for. But since we was under suitelet, because we needed the custom UI, every time they loaded that page, we had to load, even though we were showing and hiding with JavaScript, we had to load all of the data, the entirety of the application, which took the page, 5 minutes to render. I'm assuming with single page applications, we're going to be able to have better tools and techniques to do stuff like this, or no?
Yeah, I'm glad that you're bringing this up, right? Because that becomes one of the places like, I believe you and I stand from a very different grounds, because what happens is you see this from a business perspective, right? When you need,
my job,
and I'm a technical person, right? So I guess what happens is, and like I have a lot of thoughts in my head. But I guess when you are looking at, let's say, a Suitelet, right, what you see is I wanted this this page to complete, to load the values to everything, and it's being done, right?
Yeah.
You wanted a whole, and the whole is being drilled, right? Like there was an example that our partner used in one of the calls, right? That a client only basically cares about 9-inch
I care about the hole, man.
Yeah.
I care about the drill you're using to show it. I want this cash flow report in a way that I can make it look and feel like I want. I don't want to take you freaking 10. It would take 5-10 minutes to load, and then for some of our really big complex deals had thousands of transactions, it would just keep failing. And all the NetSuite teams, and like I'm saying on behalf of the client, but I was also frustrated. All technically saying, governance, this, I can't do it, or the page can't handle this much data, and I'm like, okay, but that doesn't solve the need. Like we need this to make the types of investment decisions so we can go forward. And at the end of the day, we need you to give us your drill bit. Like if you try and use a wood drill bit on concrete, you might be able to go hole in concrete, but it's going to take a really long time. If you're telling me that you got a new, carbon, whatever it's called, drill bit, carbon tipped, carbonite, I don't know. I'm also clearly not a carpenter. The type of drill bit they use for concrete, and you can get through concrete better, give me the hole in concrete with a better tool. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you've got this new drill bit on a single page. Is it going to help for the situation I just said, or where is it actually going to be useful for? Yeah,
it does help. So what happens is, by the way, we were talking about loading the pages, loading results in a Suitelet. So by the way, how this happens right now, by the way, is technically different. So you cannot. You can load, by the way, but how we do Suitelets and the results and the pages is we load 1,000 results in a single page, and then you have the drop downs to change the page. Right? Have you looked at that? Right, and for you, it would be a whole that you're just seeing the result. But what happens in the background is once you click on that, the whole page refreshes. The search again runs, and it says that I need to look at page 2. The page 1 does not exist for that Suitelet at all anymore, right? Because it's not an application, it's a page. Right. It does not remember the context. And then the complications does come inside of it, right? Like there were some examples. I remember in my initial years, we had worked on a Suitelet in which we had like the application, like the page wasn't that big, but let's say we were doing like 10,000 results. So client would need to come into the first page. They'll need to, let's say, select some of the orders. They'll go to the next page. They'll select some of the orders, and they'll go to the third page, select some of the orders. Now, as a user, you would imagine that you should be able to remember all the things that I selected, right? Like that's how the page should work, right? And that's how you would imagine an application to work. Because it's a page, we had to make the page as an application, right? So how we were doing that was, whenever we were changing the page, we were first of all storing the values that these are the number of IDs that I've stored. I go to the next page.
Passing in some session variable between different pages.
And not even session variables, by the way.
Well, not really.
Yes.
You're throwing it in that.
In the parameter, right? Right. And it had
so the true session variable is actually quite closer to what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So in the pages, we were able to use only maybe like NetSuite's local caching or NetSuite's cache, and best we were able to use the URLs in the post bucket, right? And that was a page. It was an application. And now the possibilities that we have is to basically make this modern. So we are able to use browser-based caches. We are able to use different things. By the way, I'm also learning this along the way, but these are the possibilities that we see them.
When did this start coming out?
No, by the way, this started, I think, a couple of years ago. I want to say it was like last year, but I don't remember in which release notes it was. But they released it, and I guess I was looking at some of the older publications by the NetSuite, in which I think initially it was supposed to be only for Suite apps. I'm not sure if they have released it for everyone yet or not. Right? We are still like developing this as a Suite app and then this as a Suite app. But like I know that. And I believe, honestly, that NetSuite will basically roll out this as an account customization, and it will unlock a lot of possibilities.
No, it's interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I think...
And the possibilities are endless. Like
as a business person, I'll let me jump in and say, as a business person, I always get really terrified when we end up in a situation where we've got to build something truly custom inside of NetSuite. Because the second you get out of the core development path, the STM mobile app being a new development patterns. So now as I see NetSuite, there's really two approved development patterns.
Exactly.
SCM app or the standard NetSuite application.
And then the third is coming there, which is SPS.
And when I look at these two, when client needs something truly, truly custom, there's sometimes both options, right? So, for example, we're working with a client up in Kuwait right now, and they've got a very complicated quoting process. Doesn't really fit in the CPQ situation. Doesn't really fit in. And I mean, they had a very complicated Excel book that took in a bunch of different parameters. From those parameters, they wanted to go and generate a bunch of stuff. So, in NetSuite, we can make a custom record and we can put out the different fields that they need, but the bells and whistles that we can put on that custom form or custom record rather to collect this type of information and then behind the scenes make new items and make the sales and make the quote. But the UI limitations were pretty significant. But at the same time, I knew we could go to a custom suitelet. But those are always, prone to have significant errors and not errors. It's pure custom development and the responsiveness of suitelets is still sometimes a bit. They're hard to get right, and you still don't get everything you want because the page itself's not overly dynamic. I mean, you can build more and more logic. But anyways, so I've always been very nervous as someone when I hear clients say I want to do this. They just say, hey, go develop your own outside application and integrate it with NetSuite. It sounds like there's more and more capability that we would be able to just do that directly in NetSuite. So I am excited for that. I hope to see from you or from Ratul or from our other technical team members. I do hope to see more on social media, LinkedIn, et cetera, of practical use cases. Speaking of Ratul, speaking of practical use cases, let's transition here for a bit. Let's talk about the Gen AI capabilities that NetSuite continues to release. Right, last year I was at Suite World. There was a lot of rah, like AI, and again, NetSuite don't kill me for saying this, right? But the reality is that the keynote of all of that was, hey, we've got auto text enhance, right? For descriptions on items, you can click a button and have it automatically generate a description for the item. It's like, there's use cases for that, I suppose, possibly, maybe. Although very little people are saying the name of their item from NetSuite. Usually their product team is going to decide that.
To name your item.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that was a little bit of a stretch, right? Now, I say that because from Suite World to now, it's a bit different. Now I'm starting to see where they're talking about text enhance. Now I'm starting to see our colleague Ratul, our colleague Ratul, who now that they've released their API, you can actually send queries and get all the against all of your NetSuite data, all your sales order information, whatnot. I've seen Ratul make some very interesting cases on that. I've also seen, those of you who follow on LinkedIn or other social media stuff a lot, I've also seen another person, I'm going to butcher his name. So Tim, I really apologize for that if you haven't watched this, but Tim Dietrich, I think is how you say it. He's one of the leading voices on the NetSuite development community, at least in the LinkedIn community. And, he's been also putting out some really cool stuff now of using that API endpoint. You probably know, like N/AI or whatever they call that, right? Where you can now send in natural language queries and get results back. That's what like I've seen from Tim. He's taken that and extended it so far as to make like pro forma financial reports, right? And like have like the management analysis section of the financial report be automatically generated by hitting that endpoint. At least, Tim, I think that's what you're doing. Apologize again. You can comment in the comments if I got that wrong. But that's very similar, at least to how Ratul was starting to do stuff. Is that going to help with the data entry? Is that going to help with the majority of the day-to-day work on the ERP? Probably not. Or he's not in super substantial ways. But in how we think about reporting and how we think about getting data out of NetSuite to make intelligent business decisions. Like at the end of the day, the reason why we're putting all the data in is to use that to make, we want to run the business day to day, but then two, to use that to make better decisions as to, what we should buy and sell, what businesses we should be in, what segments we should get out. I think the core data structure, the accuracy of the data and getting your segments right, I think all that block and tackling work is still required. As far as I've seen so far, I don't think any of the Gen AI, I can't see, tools are going to automatically do that for us. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone again in the comments can say, no, Ben, you're not smart. Look at this, look at this, look at this. And that's the reason why we do these types of things, is to foster that type of community and foster that type of collaboration to push forward for our clients. But I haven't seen that use case yet, but on reporting and miscellaneous questions about the business, it is quite getting interesting. Like I work with a lot of private equity funded companies, and the think in the future state, instead of going and interviewing the management team of a company looking to acquire, using that API to interview NetSuite about the company you're going to acquire. I think we're getting pretty close where we might actually be able to start interviewing the ERP system via the API to pull against all the ERP's data. I mean, am I crazy, Rand, or do you think we're getting closer and closer to that point?
I mean, as a person, I think I'm a bit pessimistic person. I don't believe
you're the one technical person in the world telling the truth here, saying the hype is overrated.
No. I would not say that the hype is overrated, because I've seen the progress from Tim. I haven't looked at.
You've seen the stuff. You've seen what Tim been posting. No, I mean everyone sees. Anyone, guys, if you're listening to this, and you're not following Tim. Tim does not work at our company, but I will tell you, everyone at our company has a hell of an opinion for him.
I've looked at Ratul's post, and I would say they were honestly insightful. Like as a pessimistic person, I used to believe I was also at the same place. First of all, I tried using that text autofill that and I was like, it's not the AI, right? But when I looked at what Ratul had created, I don't know if you have seen this video. Did you saw that? It was about.
We'll make sure these couple videos get posted in the comments below this, so you can just take a look at the link.
So we'll add that video. So basically, he had this idea that they are basically using the AI and using LLM models, and the NetSuite calls it n/LLM.
Oh, wow. Of course.
And basically, they are predicting the probability of a customer paying on time. Right? It's a very simple thing, by the way. But how they have done it was I would say it was just the step inside of the door, which takes me to the possibilities of AI. I looked at that, and I was it was very insightful for me, honestly. And what they are doing is pretty interesting. So what they do is they look at the transactional details from a customer, right? Like how late they were on their due date payments. And based on that, they are calculating a probability.
It's interesting. I have a client just yesterday, right? We were going through MRP, right? And we were talking about using these LLM models and how Rahul was predicting, when they might actually pay, like a realistic payment date, which I think there's a lot of use cases there too. I got a number of clients I have that need cash flow forecasting. It's going to predict what day the person actually pays, can manage their cash flow, especially in the VC community, but also the PE community, where people are relatively fast growing. These happen to be cash constraints. So the ability to have better forecasting, I think with what Virtual did, we need to take it to the next step and actually on every invoice predict when we think it's going to be paid, to use that for a better cash flow estimate. I think that would truly be valuable. And I know we've got a bunch of private equity partners, a bunch of our clients pushing us to get more and more of that embedded in their companies' organizations, which I think we can and we will through a higher model. But I say that, let's go back to the ERP situation. The ERP situation I had yesterday, the guy was like, hey, I don't want to have to maintain my lead times. I want the system to know my lead times, right? And on my forecasting, I want to forecast based on my average sales the last 3 or 4 months. But when I forecast on my average sales last 3 or 4 months, I need to exclude corporate orders. I need to exclude promotional orders, because I want that to bias, because if I buy ahead for that, I don't get corporate orders off, and I don't get I don't get promotions that often. So how can I use all that to predict what my sales are going to be going forward? And then how can I get my lead times better? And I remember saying like, yeah, well, that's like you need to enter lead time on each item for MRP to work. Or you can have NetSuite like calculate an average and it just keeps updating the average if you have an auto calculate flag on. But now if we start thinking about this LLM model, start saying, okay, well, can we instead write a small customization that every night we go out, we look at every new vendor, every new item we had received, pull the data from that, and tell the LLM model, say, hey, look at this item, look at the data that's been received, right? And use the XYZ criteria, right? For anything that looks like it got held up at customs hold, if it looks like it might have been held up in customs hold, exclude that data, then take the average of this and put heavier weight on here, right? Or any type of framework that we can do. We can work with our friends in strategic sourcing and say, hey, what would be the most advanced framework? Build that into an LLM model and then feed that in the NetSuite and say, okay, using this framework, look at all this historical data and come up with what you think is the most realistic lead time going forward. And then on top of that, we can also potentially go further and say, hey, not just look at the historical data, but then also leverage the LLM model that's not just NetSuite's data that's using, but then also use, I don't know if that NetSuite can touch public information, but if not yet, it will soon. Also look at what's happening in global events. And with global events, also update what you think the lead time might be. Let's say, unfortunately, I live in Dubai. This is close to me. Say the Yemeni rebels shut down the Red Sea again, right? Well, that's going to cause another, 12 days of lead time on everybody as they go around the Horn of Africa. So I don't think it's quite there yet. But we're getting closer and closer that like if a client said, no, I need this like more, if lead time really, really, really mattered to them to get it more and more accurate, I think we're getting closer and closer to where we can start just embedding some of that in. I think Oracle themselves is going to embed some of that in, but I also think where, individual companies or people like us who work and help individual companies can say, okay, well, in your specific case, here's the framework, and then have it feed in the framework, which I think is going to be quite interesting for the consulting community because I think it's going to make us much more dependent. Our value to the clients going forward is going to be much more about the framework that we bring to feed into the model, right? Because like when the models become easier and easier to do, it's time. But now it's like, okay, what can Ben, what can Rohit bring to your company? It's like, well, when we think about lead time, we want this, and this parameter. We want to feed that into the LLM model and let it come up with a calculation. And let Oracle, let Microsoft, let OpenAI, let them worry about the details of how with our prompt it comes back with the results. But for us, it's in a weird way, it's almost like we're prompt engineering, right? Where it's almost like we're prompt engineering. We're using that prompt engineering in the context of custom software to send the right prompt to a model to update fields in the ERP. I've been very bearish on AI. But shit, Rohit, even as we talk about this conversation, now I'm looking at it as like, well, that's actually a pretty darn practical use case. Or if I talk about forecasting, the client I said I didn't want it for promotional and corporate orders. Like in NetSuite standard functionality, it doesn't have any ability to do that, right? It would include all the sales and take the average or linear regression or the seasonality and predict forward, right? But for us to build a different model for even forecasting from an MRP perspective, say in this model, exclude these types of orders, find the average sales, then run that into the future. And for, look at how these different categories are responding online or whatever, and then predict what you think the percentage should be and go forward or use what use JP Morgan's estimate for growth in this sector for the next, quarter. And that we could build that, effectively build that prompt engineering into the nightly script to set those fields, to set those forecasts. Maybe that's not as far away as I think it is.
Again, I would say I'm still a pessimistic person, but honestly,
wow.
By the way, I do agree with you, by the way, when I believe the real use case, the first use case that would come out would be with the MRP, because that's what it is all about. It is about planning things, right? And I guess AI would be enabling us to make it better.
Well, there's a lot of third-party planning tools that have a lot of this stuff built in. And they were one of the earlier, people pushing forecasting into the future is a perfect use for AI because you can't tell if it's right or wrong, right? I mean, it's like the weatherman. Like you find out after the fact if the model was right or wrong, and then you can blame it on 1,000 other reasons if it was right or wrong or whatever. But no, I certainly see some uses there. I certainly see the cash flow forecasting. The cash flow forecasting, it is a real serious need that any company that has any level of capital constraints needs. That I can't tell you the number of clients I've asked for this for the last 4 or 5, 6 years, and it's bad, right? Like there's no option, and we end up building giant suite lists, and they don't work as well, and there's too many different assumptions. So think that we can leverage and feeding in to their LLM model that has access to your entire database, to all of your history, and Oracle's put some logic around it for it to read their database in meaningful ways to respond back to answers with us. I mean, realistically thinking, right, that should probably be on the start plan of every single one of our Wi-Fi clients. Like every single one of our clients probably should start having a cash flow forecasting approach built like that. And especially if we can tie these two things we talked about today, because I know we're going really long. And if anyone's still with us, well, one, what are you? Yeah, you should do something better with your life. No, we're just teasing. But I do think if you start saying, okay, well, how can we tie these two things together, right? And I talked about the financing model that we talked about earlier on the single page. We start saying, hey, can I get a stronger single page application, and can I get the LLM AI model together? Now all of a sudden you start saying, like, can I actually start building some really cool stuff inside of NetSuite? A cash flow forecasting as a single page, I could drill into more details and get to all the different stuff that it might look like, and then have the cash flow being using your NetSuite data as the core, but then projecting what actually paid based on other history and other frameworks that we fed in as a prompt to the LLM model. It kind of feels like we should be doing this with every single one of our clients, like on a somewhat urgent basis now. So we'll take that as a to-do. We didn't fully script this podcast. We did not expect to get to here in this conversation. In fact, we only planned on going for 25 minutes, but it's quite fascinating. I don't think we have time today, but maybe you might want to talk to Hema or one of the other peers. I do think we should do a follow-on podcast after they watch this and listen to this and digest this on what does this mean for the talent pool, right? Obviously, NetSuite's doing this type of stuff, but Microsoft's doing this type of stuff. All the solutions relatively follow each other pretty quickly, give or take. What does that mean for the future of the ERP consultant, right? Whether you're technical focused, whether you're business focused, bringing these tools together. I mean, I never really took prompt engineering seriously because I was like, that's not what I do. I'm not a prompt engineer. What's a prompt engineer? Like, oh, wow. Like I went to college, I'm a prompt engineer. Right? Yeah. I mean, there's no chance of prompt engineers watching an ERP video. But all of a sudden, the types of things we were talking about in this discussion, actually, that might be really like my job. People who, are juniors when I was a junior, right? That might be their job, right? Is to help bring those frameworks and methodologies in. And the question becomes like, at what point do we get in a gap as a profession of saying, hey, well, like the junior people used to learn by doing some of the more basic development, some of the more basic process scenario setup. And then we're saying, hey, well, the real value consultants can add is these frameworks that lead into their prompt, lead into the LLM that comes back in a single page application that people can actually quickly make decisions off of. That's not junior level work. Maybe it is. Maybe we're just not, maybe like universities and maybe we just aren't training our people at the right way either. So I think it'd be a very interesting follow-up discussion for you to have with somebody on like, what does the skill look like? What does the universe, like what do we need to get from our university partners to train the students better on? What do we need to do on our side when we bring in young talent to make sure that for every single company out there, our goal is very simple. Hayden and I are in a program is very, very simple. Our goal is the clients that we work on them long term as if we were a part of their team forever. Our goal is simple. Add more value than they pay us every single month. If we add more economic value than they pay us, well, not only do we do a good job, they'll keep us on the team and we'll be there for many years to come. If we're ever taking more, they're ever paying us more than the economic value we're creating, they're going to fire us. So at the end of the day, what do we want? We want to keep looking for ways like this on how can we find ways to make your organization more and more valuable every single week. This cash flow forecasting through LMM and through single page as an extension of what tool started. The type of stuff that Tim Dietrich's doing on the quarterly reportings.
And also Jason from our
what Jameson Ogle and our team has been doing around consolidating and keeping your standard operating procedures together. And even we think about the standard operating procedures right now, we have those out in Azure DevOps as a practice, but when do we just get them into a single page application in NetSuite itself? I think there starts becoming a lot of very interesting things that we need to do. But our producers here are looking at me and saying, Ben, shut up. So with that, I don't know, do you have any other final closing words you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I guess the final words that I'll use will be again, I think Jameson says this a lot, which is like, and a lot of junior folks comes up to me and says, like, will AI take our jobs or will this be dangerous and all those things? And I guess the thought that you should have is AI is not here to replace you, but it is to enable you. It is to make you better at your own job, right? So that's what the possibilities that we have. And I think the overall talk and overall shares that we had in this talk was about basically like the possibilities are endless. That's the thing that is what it is. Yeah. This
is what it is. Well, I appreciate everyone for joining and look forward to Rohit's next session talking about what it means from a talent pool perspective as we go forward.
Yeah, and thank you, Ben, for joining us.
My man, have a good one.